Good afternoon. Just want to have a little yarn today about where we look in our lives with struggle, adversity, heartache, things aren't going right, not happy in current situations that we're in, always blaming others, feeling like a victim to our own circumstances and our own lives all the time. One of the reasons I discovered, and before I go into what I discovered, I might add, it's very hard to go where I'm going to talk about where I went and found a lot more answers in my life than I did prior to 1989 when I was a full-blown heroin addict, a criminal, and not a nice person at all. Back in those days, it was always somebody else's fault. I was always handing my soul over and being very vulnerable doing it, I might add, to outside forces. The reason why I was in prison was because of somebody told on me. I was unlucky. It was the police officers. It was the prison officers that was turning the keys on me when I was getting sentenced. It was circumstances that happened through the crimes that I'd committed was the reason why I was in situations that I'd put myself in, I realised. And this just kept going on, and then it was relationships and it was partners why I was angry. It was somebody cutting in front of me on the road as a reason to react and carry on like a pork chop. Somebody look at me the wrong way. Another reason to react. It was always something outside of myself was the reason that I was getting a bad deal in my life. And that took me into victimisation. Oh, and what a victim I was. And it wasn't until 89 that I was confronted with the accountability for what I was doing in my life. And I was confronted to look within my soul and to take stock of what I was doing in my life. I was shown that every action has a reaction. Every decision has a consequence. And I had control over my decisions in my life. And I also had control of the actions in my life. But I wouldn't take accountability for that because I used to blame everybody and anything for what I was doing. I couldn't accept that I was a part of it. I did the crimes. I chose to enter those relationships and I got hurt. I chose to be in friendships also that didn't go the way I would have liked, and there was pain there was disappointment. I chose it. I chose everything. And because I couldn't get to that, I could never look within my soul and start a human discovery within, because my focus was always outside of myself, every single time. And it was the worst place I could have ever been in, because I never ever developed how my behaviours, what I was doing, my emotional makeup, how I was acting, how I was conducting myself, my contribution to relationships, my contribution to work, my contribution to goals, my contribution to anything that I may have wanted. I could never ever go within. I was very reactive, and being reactive is a good indication at times, not all the time, that we are handing our souls over to other people and circumstances. But we can take stock of that, and we can take that back. And I found it amazing looking within and looking at how I was coping. Why was my relationships failing? Well, there was a lot of reasons why my relationships failed. I didn't show up, I avoided them, I drank too much, I disregarded them, I wasn't there for my partners, I wasn't present. And there was reasons why I was a criminal and a heroin addict. I didn't care about anybody else or other people that I was affected. My empathy levels was low. I had complete disregard. I was self-centered, and I could go on and on and on about what I discovered. But it was only when I started looking in at my behaviours and my actions and my motivations that I could start developing some kind of framework other than blame. And that's the other thing, when I was always handing my actions and decisions and behaviours over to circumstances and people and situations outside of myself, I never ever could start structuring something and identifying things within me that was there, that I could start using as a point of reference. I couldn't identify when I was angry because it was other people that made me angry. I couldn't identify I was hurt because it was other people's fault for that hurt. I couldn't identify that I didn't have empathy because no one else gave me empathy. So, and it was only until that I stopped and I was made aware in rehab that I was completely responsible for what had happened in my life. And then I started looking within. I started getting feeling charts. And, you know, there's that many feeling charts on the internet of identifying how we feel. You might feel sad, you might feel hurt, you might feel disappointed, you might feel shame, you might feel neglect, you might feel abused, you might feel happy, you might feel sad. You might feel unsure. There's thousands and thousands of feelings and descriptions of feelings on the internet. Any one of you guys can get and start using as a reference instead of blaming people for being stuck, unhappiness, bad relationships, too much abuse with drugs. And I started identifying with feelings that I didn't like myself, had a low self-esteem, I blamed people, I was critical, I used to put people down and that made me feel good, I was angry, superior, but I couldn't have found that if I didn't look within my soul. If I kept externalizing everything in my life as the reason why that circumstances outside of myself was the catalyst of my life and why I was feeling or why things were happening in my life that I wasn't happy with, there is no way in the world I could have started developing in my soul and my heart and looking at things about who I am, how I acted, why I acted, what part I had to play in all these events and circumstances that led to this unfulfilled life and this unhappiness. And it was, for me, it was amazing when I started talking about these feelings and using, like I feel hurt, I feel not good enough, I feel people are better than me, I feel angry, I feel sad, I feel unsure. It wasn't until I started using those I messages and those feeling charts that I started coming out of it. And it gave me a sense of, it really empowered me. And it gave me hope. It gave me optimism. It gave me a sense of purpose. Because I wasn't always at other people's mercy in my behaviour and what I was doing. I stopped it. As soon as I stopped focusing on other people as the reason why I was struggling in my life, I had to look within. And that was the beauty of stopping that behaviour and the actions I was doing in that content of blaming people for what my life was and where I was in my life. And for me, it hasn't stopped. Like I've been at this stuff now of developing myself for 35 years. And I've been very successful in my life from it. A lot of things have happened good, but it hasn't happened overnight. Like I had to start off really slow, and it was baby steps to go within and try to stay within. And yeah, sure, like of course I've overreacted at times. Yes, I've blamed. Yes, I've, blamed business partners and partners, and I've carried on like a pork chop, but I've always come back to that, well, wait there, Dean, come on, like what part have you had to play in it? And the more I've taken it back to myself, the more it's given me a better outlook in my life. And it doesn't happen overnight, but if you stick with it, I believe anybody can get feeling charts and start identifying feelings. And even if you haven't, at first you won't even have that structure within your soul. But if you've blamed and been a victim in your life and that hasn't worked and you're still not happy, have a try at what I'm saying. Have a try at going in and have a try at getting some feeling charts and using I messages and I feel this and I feel that, instead of going, well, the reason why I'm like this, it's because of you. The reason why I'm like this is because I lost my job. The reason why I'm like this is because this happened to me when I was a kid. The reason why I did this is because That's the rain fell on my parade. You can come up with all reasons why, but you don't develop that self-core within your soul when you always put it out there, always put it out there. So iMessages, I feel hurt, I feel happy, I feel love. There's thousands and thousands of them on the internet of feelings and emotions. It really worked for me, and I could develop a life which has been challenging, but a lot better than handing that over and not developing an internal dialogue with feelings and identifications and owning my feelings with using iMessages. So take care and have a great weekend.